You're listening to a Frequency Podcast Network production.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Welcome to Thursday. My name is Brock.
I'm Dalby.
All right. There's an Instagram account I think everybody needs to check out.
Okay, so we're going to tell people to go check this out?
Yeah, it's called Cheesus the Living Son, all one word.
Cheesus the Living Son.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
Click, here, I'll pass you my phone. Click the one that says just watched, and then like...
cult did you get into?
It almost is a cult. It's like... It's this dude on Instagram, and he's...
Okay, you sent me this video yesterday.
Did I send it to you?
And I was so confused. I kept waiting for the punchline. So I'll just describe it, and we'll put a link to the Instagram account in the show
Please
links.
follow him. I want this guy to go viral. Like,
It's just a woman and a dude both taking turns doing Street Fighter Hadouken hand motions.
so if you keep scrolling through, I didn't know if I sent you it or not. So Jesus the Living Son, and it's this guy, and he believes that he's like an airbender. Like there's videos of him I've been
Avatar?
watching for like weeks now. He'll go through parking lots
What
and
is
like
he, Spider-Man now?
he'll move his hands around in a circle, and then a dust tornado will pop up, and he acts like it was him. It looks like they live somewhere in Florida, and it's like very windy all the time, and they're in their
Yeah.
backyard, and like they look like they're like pushing the branches.
Oh my god, this is clearly in the middle of a windstorm. It's just a woman standing outside waving her hands in the direction of wind gusts.
It started off as just him as like a solo warrior.
He found himself a disciple.
He's got a squad. They've got a name too. I forget what they call themselves, but
Grand Rising Family is what the caption of this video is.
yes.
Jesus. This piece of paper started blowing in the parking lot, and Buddy just started waving his hands at it. After it had already started moving. Take your phone
I
back.
thought it was a joke at first, and then I started
was
going
it.
through the page, and
When
it's like
you send me videos, and we all know everybody's got that one friend that sends you the reels or the TikToks or the memes or whatever that can get a little spicy. That's you. You're that person in my life. So
But then
I'm
again-
watching these people wave this piece of tinfoil around the table, and I'm waiting for the punchline, and then it just ends.
I will say, I've been watching this for a few weeks now, that it's like, I find it so funny.
Yeah.
But then there's some of them where I'm like,
Wait, how do you do that?
maybe.
Are you going to join the Grand Rising
Like,
family?
who am I to say that it's not true? You know?
Listen, separation of church and state, brother. You're allowed to join this cult if you want, but we are not going to bring their teachings to the show.
I don't know, man.
There's a look in your eyes I'm actually concerned about.
Dude, if I get bored enough one day, I might go to the park
I
outside.
see you sitting at home just waving your hands at tinfoil later today.
The best is the tinfoil one. Like, that's easy. Like, you're literally pushing wind at it.
Hadouken!
But it's the ones with like the dirt and stuff or whatever, where it's like it's clearly just a windy fucking day.
Yeah. It's a dirty, unwashed parking lot.
Maybe it's just my humor, but most definitely worth a follow. Jesus the Living Son.
We'll put a link if you're listening. Well, you're listening to the podcast if you're hearing us say
Yeah.
this. Check the show links and go check out Jesus the Living Son.
Jesus the Living Son. Support the squad, man.
Stop saying that.
Support the squad.
Stop it.
The powerhouse. That's what it is. They call it the powerhouse. They like legit believe they're superheroes, man. It's the greatest. Dude, this is the next Avengers, all right?
This is it.
Oh, Captain America died. Tony Stark died.
Wow, the budget's gone way down.
What, do you want a reboot?
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Learned something about my house yesterday. I now know every spot in my house from basement to top floor where I can hang clothes to dry because my dryer broke.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah. So
That sucks,
For
man.
those that maybe don't know, is I'm going to be off the show tomorrow because I'll be preparing. I'm going to be hosting Rock on the River this weekend, and so I was like, I got to get all my laundry done. I got to get all this stuff taken care of so that I'm good to go and I can focus on that.
And also, I'm going to assume you haven't had the kids, so Dalby's probably been a little more chillax at home with the
maybe
laundry.
The laundry's not happening every single day, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So I throw a bunch of clothes into the washer.
Oh,
Boom,
man.
everything's great. Throw them into the dryer. Throw the second load. I got all my clothes are in the washing machine in the dryer now.
Yeah.
Hit start, walk away. I'm doing stuff for the show today. And then I hear this beeping sound, and I come back, and there's an error code on the dryer. And I'm like Googling.
Oh, is it like that? Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun,
Yeah, you
dun,
know it.
dun. Yeah.
So I'm looking it up, and it's like, oh, it might be this. It's saying like something may have overheated, but like there's no part of the dryer inside or out that's even remotely warm. I'm like, oh, that's weird. They're like, oh, maybe it's an airflow thing. Check your lid travel.
You do some
empty my lid
YouTubing?
travel. I do the videos, the manual, the Google, the everything. I cannot get, now the washer is done, so now I've got 2 loads of wet clothes just sitting here, and I cannot get this dryer to work. So I start doing the old manual move. I'm like hanging stuff off of racks and doors, and I got a jersey hanging across the front of my fridge.
Man, that happened at the house I lived in college, and we just hung all our clothes off of the ceiling fans in our rooms.
Oh,
that's what we did.
That's a good move. That's a good move. I got a 5
took forever, but
I got a 5-blade fan. I didn't think about that. I could hang 5 different pieces of clothing in there, and then you get them spinning around. They dry faster.
Yeah.
Dude.
I will say this. What do you think's worse? Your washer breaking or your dryer breaking? I'd say the washer.
Oh, washer for sure.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, right? It's like,
are you going to hand bomb it in the bath or something?
This was super frustrating, but I cannot imagine like the idea of me taking and manually hanging everything around my house or getting a clothesline, whatever. Like, that's doable. You see some of those TikTok videos of people who like bin their whole laundry basket into a bathtub and they're like mixing it with a boat oar trying to get all the dirt and stuff out.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell I'm doing in there.
I went to this summer camp once and they made us like wash our own clothes in the water. That sucked.
Like by hand into the river.
Yeah, with like the washboard thing.
Oh, yeah.
This was like 2008. Well, I was like, what are we doing here? I'm 12 years old. Why am I doing this?
Right? Like, I'm sorry, but in my 40 years on this earth, almost 41 now, all I've ever known a washboard to be for was like hillbilly jug bands.
Yeah.
I've never at any point seen anyone bust out a washboard to be like, yeah, it's time to do the laundry.
Me and my buddy that went to camp with me, we bailed on it after like day 3, and we just started like running our shirts under the shower and then spraying them with Axe body spray. It was a hockey camp, dude. We smelled so bad by the end of it.
That is the most 12-year-old move I've ever heard.
My mom picked me up from camp by the end of the week, and she's like, you stink so bad.
What is the worst thing in your house that could break? Like, if it broke, it is a tragedy.
I mean, electrical panel for sure, right? Because then you just got no power. But like,
yeah, then you're losing a bunch of stuff all at the same time.
Or is it worse to lose your plumbing?
Oh,
I think the plumbing's probably worse, right?
I mean, I would say that the electrical panel can have a more widespread range of issues.
But if you can't take a dump,
the plumbing is going to be the grosser one,
yeah,
for sure. But also, I don't know, if you live close to a gas station, like, you could figure that out.
True.
You can just run down the road anytime you feel nature calling, right?
That's true.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
We're really able to tell at 762-555 how good you've got things going based on your answer. Like, we got Steve who texted in and said, when the remote control for your TV breaks, better be on a channel you really like. It's like, man, if the remote control for the TV is the worst thing that can break in your house, things are going pretty well.
Yeah, well, I will say, though, most of us use streaming services now, so it's not even like you can change the channel.
That's true.
Right?
That is true.
You better hope you're on a good season of a show at that point. Hot water heater is a big one there, of course. The furnace in the winter, that is brutal. That's happened to me before.
That sucks.
You got to hope that you have a gas fireplace or something at least, or
something
wood
that
fireplace.
you can, like, even I've seen people that'll like fire up the oven to 425 and just stand there like got their hands together.
Oh, Sam just said I just woke up to my propane being out. Oh, that's brutal. That's brutal.
Also, for people who live in apartments, maybe it's not necessarily within your particular unit, but Ashley texted in, when the elevator is down in our building, it is very inconvenient.
Oh, forced to take the stairs?
Yeah, I've imagined. I've lived on like double-digit floors. When that elevator breaks, you're just like, maybe I don't want to go home anymore. more.
Yeah. I think unanimously, though, the biggest answer that's coming in at 762-555 is your fridge.
Yeah, especially if you've got a combo fridge-freezer unit.
Yeah.
Now you've got not only food spoiling in the fridge, you've got stuff defrosting in the freezer, and you almost get to the point where you have to do damage control. Like, all right, well, the ice cream's melting right away, so we better eat that first.
I think the move would be to get, like, as baked as you possibly can and have a fridge party.
Just give yourself the munchies.
Yeah. I think that's what you got to do. Like, if you know the thing is toast and you're like, what am I going to do? Everything's going bad right now.
Right.
Yeah, you have everybody over, you have some warm beers.
Yeah.
And you have a fridge party.
Well, I think the first step is you got to run to like a gas station convenience store, buy a few bags of ice. If you've got a cooler, that's going to give you a little bit of extra time. But you got to get the grill going. You got to get the stove, the oven on. You got to start cooking.
I will say it could be beneficial for some people because do you ever look in your freezer and you're like, when the hell did I buy this?
Honestly.
Right?
Yeah. I got a pack of muffins on sale from the grocery store because it was one of those like, hey, these are going to go bad in a couple days, so we'll mark them down. I was like, oh, those could be perfect for breakfast. And I saw them in the freezer the other day, and I was like, oh, these are months old now.
Man, it would give people a good reason to finally get rid of those old-ass bananas they've just had in there for the longest time. Remember that banana bread you said you were going to make? Now would be the time to make the banana bread.
The dozens of banana breads you have bananas for, today's the day if the fridge is broken.
That would actually be super cool. If someone called me and was like, I'm having a fridge party today, come try and eat everything, I'm there. I'm there right away.
I'm on board for that.
Yeah.
It would also be good. I don't think you have to wait till your fridge is broken. Like if you're just getting a new fridge, you can do that. Or if it's just a Saturday, you could still do it. Like that actually just sounds like a fun time.
I mean, there are times where I spark up a lefty and I pretty much do this. Plugged or unplugged, it doesn't really matter, I guess.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
We got a text in here at 762-555. Now, we helped this person out last year. I don't know if you remember when we named their chickens.
Oh, yeah. It was somebody who lived on some land and got some chickens and wanted some name ideas.
They texted us and they said, you helped us out with our chicken names last year. We got a new cow. Do you think you boys could toss out some suggestions on a cow name?
Cow. I mean, there's definitely some ways you could go if you wanted. Because when we did the chicken, it was a lot of like pun names, celebrities, that sort of thing. You could go in some different directions with a cow.
Let's try it out here. I'll put 30 seconds on the clock. We'll list as many pun names as we possibly can and see what we come up with. Are you ready?
Sounds good.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Darius?
Cowie Mandel.
You could name it Holy.
Count Olaf.
Muhammad.
Coward Stern.
Maurice.
Moo Barrymore.
Michael Moores.
Grazer Beam.
Rick Moranis.
Mooey Griffin.
Mona Lisa.
Leather Jacket by the Arkells.
What? Oh, yeah. Derry Busey.
Mitt Romney.
Michelle.
Cuds McKenzie.
Hugh Heifer.
Crazy Train.
I had Cow Chocula as well.
Only if it's one of them brown cows that makes chocolate milk.
And then I also had Jesus Christ.
That one might be going a little too far.
Is that too far?
Maybe.
That's too far?
Maybe.
You might not want to kill that one.
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. Because you, as a friend of mine, I know you have a girlfriend that you love very, very much, and 2 dogs that you also love very, very much. Which one would you rather watch a movie with?
You want the honest answer?
I do want the honest answer.
My dogs, probably.
That's kind of what I thought. So there is a study that's been done, and this is another one of those, like, who asked for this study, who did this survey, but a couple thousand U.S. dog owners were asked if they would rather watch a movie with their significant other, the person they're in a relationship with, or with their dog. And 43% chose the dog over the partner.
Now, the reason why I would say that is because the amount of times that I'm like, Courtney, we got to watch this movie. And then we sit down and we're like 10 minutes in and she's just on her phone or something. And I'm like, you don't even watch it.
That's the problem. So 44% of people who said that they would rather watch with their dog said it's because their dogs don't interrupt. 42% said it's because the dog won't ask questions. Like, who's that? Where'd that person come from? What's going on? And now this one maybe is a little bit sus. 35% of people who said they'd rather watch a movie with their dog than their partner said it's because the dog's a better cuddler.
I can agree with that. No disrespect to my gal, but my dog Silas, he's the best cuddler in the world. I will say my dog Murphy, she genuinely likes watching TV.
Really?
Like, she'll legit sit there. You can watch her eyes on the screen. She actually watches a movie with me.
See, that's the thing. So this survey went on. 93% of people said that their dogs pay attention when they're watching a movie, which is crazy.
Yeah, they do.
I just never assumed that dogs could pay attention to that sort
They're
of
just
thing.
still watching it in black and white.
Sure, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. And
Yeah.
I love my girlfriend to death. But,
Obviously.
I think anyone who owns an animal will agree with me. Dogs are just better than people in general.
Just in general, they're just good. They're just a whole good on this earth.
Well, I mean, dogs are better than people because they're always happy to see you, right?
Yeah.
Right? You walk in the door, like, versus there's times I can go home if Courtney's mad at me, she's mad at me.
That's right.
The dogs are never mad at me, right?
Dogs don't have the memory for it.
They'll never judge you for anything.
Oh.
Right?
Well, can you really, if you will sniff and lick your own privates, can you judge other people for it?
I mean, if you could do that, you probably would too.
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Right? So dogs are just like, hey, man, just let's get after it.
They're always down to eat, right? They're never going to judge you about that.
When you're eating that whole pizza by yourself, they're just like, hey, if my bowl's full, yours should be too.
Right? They're always down to do what you're doing on top of that. So, I mean, dogs are just better than people. Plus, they know all your secrets and they're never going to tell anyone.
Do you think that your dogs have a preference? Like, do you find your dogs settle in better on the couch if you're watching, like, a comedy or a drama action movie? Do your dogs like horror movies?
Murphy really likes hockey. I know that.
Really?
Yeah, she actually really likes hockey, so that makes me happy.
Damn, that sucks that you brought another Leafs fan into this world. Someone else that has. You just finished talking about how good dogs are, and you've set one on a path to suffer forever.
That's my ride or die bitch. And when I say that, I'm talking about the female
That's
dog.
right,
I'm talking about the female dog.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Everybody loves a resort, the all-inclusive resort somewhere tropical where it's nothing but warm beach and beautiful ocean and people bringing you drinks as long as you can handle them.
The drinks are the most important part.
The swim-up bar and the buffets everywhere.
Peeing in the pool.
That is a thing also, yes.
Everybody who goes to an all-inclusive pees in the pool.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't think that's in the brochure. You know, when you're telling people to come down
It's not
and
advertised,
enjoy.
sure.
The Gran Velas Boutique Los Cabos in Mexico is kind of in the news right now because a couple earlier this year went down there for a vacation, and it is a 5-star, gorgeous-looking resort. If you want to see it, text resort 762-555. I'll send you this story. Or you can check the podcast links. This couple got down there and realized after about a day or so, they were the only guests in the entire resort.
Oh, that kind of sucks.
Got there at a time where it's just like, you know how it is. Sometimes people's vacations don't always line up. They were the only people booked to stay there. So they had the entire resort to themselves, every employee waiting on them specifically. The resort, when asked, like, why, was just say, hey, if we have guests, we're at 100%. We do all the things that we would normally do.
That sounds so suspicious, though. If I was there, I'd be like, what's going on?
Why are we the only
I feel like
people
I'm in a
here?
horror movie.
That's just it. It would be this eerie feeling of like, this is supposed to be a packed event. This is supposed to be people as far as the eye can see, and now it's just a bunch of people in uniform staring at us no matter what we do.
Well, when I go to resorts, my biggest thing is I like socializing with people, you know, having drinks with people, sitting at the swim-up bar, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it could be kind of nice for a day or two, but then, like, you go to the buffet and you're like, they're just watching me keep going back. Like,
that's the first thing in my head. I was like, oh, that would be so cool. Like, you wouldn't have to wait for anything. You'd get your first pick of whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
You're never going to run into a situation where, like, oh, sorry, that person got the last whatever it is. But you're right. I think after a while, you would feel like you were basically in the Truman Show.
well, also the thing is like, if you're not a big tipper at a resort, dude, that makes for a long-ass week with the people that work there.
That's right. You can blend in with all the other cheapskates. You might not get sort of singled out. But if you're the only one there, you almost feel obligated. Like, man, I gotta cover some salary while I'm down here.
Yeah, it would just suck. They're all just looking at you. They'd know you by name by that. I mean, I guess the only good part is you never have to get to the pool early to get a chair, but
right, like again,
it get old quick, man.
Facilities wise, you have the run of the place, and that's kind of cool. But I was thinking it's like with Disneyland. Like, you know, part of the thing about Disneyland is like it's so full. There's so many people. The lines are so long. So it could be kind of cool to be there by yourself because you could go on whatever you wanted, right?
Oh, if you could get on the rides, man, you don't have to pay for a fast pass, wait 3 hours to go ride. It's a small world after all.
But that's the other thing. It's like after a while, you're like roaming the streets of Disneyland by yourself. And
seeing the mascots and no one around would be creepy,
right?
too.
The mascots are like peeking their head out around the corner.
That's weird timing.
That was very weird. You know, like eventually, I don't think there's anywhere on earth that I would want to be completely by myself for a long period of time. Because I feel like just as human beings, we crave the companionship of other people.
I got one.
What?
The gym.
Oh.
When you have the gym to yourself, you feel so comfortable.
Yeah.
You're not worried about anyone judging you. You're not worried about being like...
That's true. Although, if you were the only person at the gym, do you have the guts to bench press? There is no one there to save you if you put on too much weight.
I mean, it all depends, I guess, on how sad I am at the time, I guess.
The Brock and Dobby Podcast.
I think we got the best answer to your question of what place would you like to have all to yourself. Got a text in here from Bobby. It says, how about the 401?
Could you imagine? Any major highway. Oh, what's that one in Germany where you go like super fast in the road?
Autobahn?
The Autobahn. Imagine having that all to yourself. Any of these major highways and just like, I can go whatever speed I want. I can go in whatever lane I want. I don't have to worry about two semis getting up beside each other and just like, I don't know, playing charades with each other. I could just go.
That's a pipe dream here in Ontario on the 401.
It'll never happen.
The only time it happens is if you're driving at like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or something. But
it really does feel like it's a Walking Dead scenario. You know what I mean?
I will say the weirdest one that we got in here at 762-555 is a strip club.
That can't be a good time. There's way too much attention on you at the strip club if you're the only guy there.
Once again, it kind of goes back to like, if you're a cheap fella.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, there's certain expectations.
They're not going to like you.
That can be like doled out over everybody at a strip club. If it's just you, you got to bear that brunt.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. The staff there only likes you if you're spending money, right? I mean, I guess there is the idea that it's a little more judgment free.
Yeah.
You don't have people looking at you or anything like that. But it would be weird because you ever go into a store and you're the only person in the store.
Yeah.
And it's like a small local business kind of place, and the person's just like, hey, how's it going? And they're following you around and they're telling you about things. That's what it would be like being at a strip club by yourself. And you're like, no, I'm just looking. I'm just looking is great. I'm just looking.
I just picture the dancer coming out onto the stage and just having like a stare down.
Yeah.
Just standing on the stage, arms crossed, looking down at you, being like, I'm not doing anything until you put money on the floor.
Someone just texted in and saying having a plane to yourself would be cool because I hate flying and I hate people.
I saw a story of somebody who just like through a bunch of mishaps ended up being the only person on an airplane. Said it was an amazing experience. It felt like flying on a private jet.
Yeah, I just feel like there'd be a little bit of paranoia for me where I'd be like, is this God's plan? Like, am I supposed to die today?
Am I the Big Bopper?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I lived up in northern BC, we'd have to take those small planes to get there, and there'd be like 4 people on there. And it is nice because you get your own seat, you can lay down, all this kind of stuff, but it does feel eerie. I don't know why.
Dude, I flew on a Buffalo Airways DC-3 every summer to go to soccer tournaments back in high school. Planes don't scare me anymore.
I don't know. It feels like being the only one in a haunted house. Like,
yeah, well, that's another one that I'm going to go ahead and put on the list is not fun.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
Yeah.
I do not want to be alone in a haunted house.
We're the only target, right?
I do also like this one that came in from Ashley, and I think we can all relate to this because your first thought is like, oh, movie theaters, airplanes, resorts, like all these great places. Ashley said it best. Sometimes I wish I could just be the only person in my own house. If you got kids or even a significant other that you live with, we've all had that thought of like, I wish you would go away for a week.
Oh, man. How many guys do you know that it's like when their wife goes out of town, they just go like full caveman mode?
Oh, dude, my kids are in BC. I have the house to myself.
Oh, true.
I am living this fantasy right now. The number of times I have come home from this show, walked through the door, and just taken my pants off. It's every day. It's every single day.
I had the exact same mentality when I was 12 years old. My parents would leave the house. I was like, ooh, all access to the computer?
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
It's time for Brock and Dalby's Draft.
Twisters, the sequel to Twister, is coming out, and for some reason, me and Dalby are obsessed with the original.
So good. It's one of the most classic popcorn movies in the history of cinema.
And the sequel is getting good reviews, so this morning we figured we'd do a draft of sequels that are better than the original.
Yeah, it's tough because you can't get into reboots. You've got to stay in the main story arc, and then you got to do that debate of like, this was good, but was it better than the first one?
I'm mad that you won rock, paper, scissors today because I think if I know you, I know what the first pick is going to be. Could I guess your first pick?
Yeah, no, by all means.
Is it Terminator 2?
Of course it's Terminator 2.
Damn it.
If you look at the text line, everybody's texting in about it. I had other movies in mind, but when it comes down to it, it's just one of the greatest sequels of all time because it took... Terminator 1 was a good sci-fi movie, but it was not a cult following like the Terminator franchise is now.
Well, Terminator 2, not that it was family friendly, but it's like, I think kids got into it too. They had merchandise and everything on top of that.
It dragged the whole franchise into the mainstream, and it was hasta la vista. Was like the coolest thing you could say.
Yeah.
I'll be back. So many quotes. Easy number one.
That scene at the end where Arnold's going in.
The thumbs up?
Oh, God.
I was trying to explain that to someone the other day. They were like, I've never seen it. And I was heartbroken.
Shame on them. Shame on them. With my number one pick, I'll have to go with Aliens.
Okay. That was,
That's way better than the original. I mean, no disrespect to Alien, but that's more of a slower pace kind of movie.
Yeah.
The second one runs way quicker. Some people don't even realize that Aliens isn't the first movie.
Right.
And it's not Alien 2, it's Aliens.
Yeah, that's all they did was add the S on it. It's very similar to Terminator in the way that it was like, the first movie was fine for what it was.
Yeah.
But the second movie just turned the whole franchise around.
Absolutely.
My number two pick, maybe this is because I'm a dad. Maybe it's for the fact that I'm an old softie. But even if it's just for the end scene of Toy Story 3, when they leave the toys behind to a new kid.
I'm not gonna lie, I've never seen Toy Story 3.
Brother, you need to. Hey, you said it earlier on the show, you love watching movies with the dog.
Yeah.
You and Murphy need to settle in and watch some Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
If you're not weeping by the end of that, you need to talk to a therapist.
I don't think I've ever seen Toy Story 3 before, so I might have to check that out.
Toy Story 2 is also an amazing sequel, but the third one, it ended so perfectly that it made the fact they did a fourth one made me upset.
Coming in with number two, I'm gonna go back to my childhood. I'm gonna go D2 Mighty Ducks.
Yeah!
I mean, you have the whole group coming back together. They're playing in, what is it, the Junior Olympics?
It's knuckle puck time, baby.
Well, think about this. You have the introduction of the knuckle puck.
Yeah.
The introduction of the Bash Brothers on top of that.
That's right.
The Ducks Fly Together speech.
Yeah. That's a great movie.
Oh, it's a fantastic
That's a great movie.
I mean, the countries that they play is unrealistic.
Iceland. Okay, number three, we knew that this was coming. This should be no surprise. The only difficulty was figuring out which sequel that I wanted to put on this list, but I've thought it over. I'm going with Rocky IV. The training montage in Russia. If he dies, he dies. Apollo Creed, all of it is Rocky ends the Cold War by beating up a Russian on steroids. What a movie.
Finally, I'm going to wrap up with here. And you know what? I might not win the draft today, but I'm happy with my pick. I'm going to go Clerks 2.
Oh.
Clerks 2 is better than the original. And I know some film buffs might get mad at me at that. But Clerks 2? The donkey scene alone? It's like checking up on your friends that you knew from high school. Like it's a really great come around, honestly. And I know some film snobs are gonna be like, no, it's not. No, it's not.
Clerks 2 is an amazing movie. Maybe it's just because of like the age gap between the two of us. Clerks 1 just sits so high for me.
Yeah.
I don't know that I agree that it's better than the original, but I don't hate the pick because it's so good. I forgot about the donkey scene.
The donkey scene.
All the trilogy
there's a bunch of stuff I can't even say on air.
It's so that's just it.
Yeah.
You would have a better time defending your point if we were on the podcast.
The whole Lord of the Rings discussion.
The whole trilogy discussion in general is so funny.
Yeah.
The way it ends is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It is a good pick. I give you that.
Run through your picks one more time.
Okay, so I have Terminator 2 as the number 1 overall pick. I went with the kids movie. I went with Toy Story 3, and then I finished with one of the greatest uplifting moments of all time, Rocky 4.
I don't care if I win today, but I'm happy with my picks. I got Aliens at number 1. I got D2, The Mighty Ducks at number 2. And I'm going Clerks 2 at number 3.
For more Brock and Dalby, tune in weekday mornings 5:30 to 9.
The Brock and Dalby podcast is brought to you by badshop.ca, the Brock and Dalby merch store. With all proceeds going to the Canadian Cancer Society.